In a world filled with conflict and division, the call to be a peacemaker stands out as a radical and transformative mission. Jesus said, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God." Matthew chapter 5, verse 9. To be a peacemaker is to embody the heart of God in all of our interactions, to bring His peace into every situation. You see, peace isn't necessarily the absence of conflict. It's the presence of God's love in the midst of conflict. And so there's 4 things for us today when it comes to us being a peacemaker. Number 1, and it always starts here in all honesty, is to start with your own heart. You see, peace, it begins within. Ask yourself, am I at peace with God? Am I at peace with my family and friends? Am I allowing His peace to rule in my heart and in my life? Before we can truly bring peace to others, we must first experience that peace in our own lives. And here's the trick to it. Peace comes from God's grace. Paul, in all of his letters, says grace and peace to you, for peace is found in the grace of God. And so we want to begin our days with a prayer for peace, asking God to fill our hearts with His grace, for asking God to have us remember the ultimate act of grace, Jesus on the cross. You see, it's at the foot of the cross where we find peace. And so number 2 is to speak words of life. Our words have power. We know this to be true. They can either build up or they can very quickly tear down. And as peacemakers, we're called to speak words that heal, that encourage, that bring understanding. In every conversation, we need our words to be seasoned with grace and truth. In a world filled with so much noise, so many voices, we need to commit to speaking only what builds others up. Ephesians 4:29 says, "Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen." Number 3 is to pursue reconciliation. Being a peacemaker means actively pursuing reconciliation, not just avoiding conflict. This may mean us going and apologizing when we're wrong. It may be extending forgiveness when we've been wronged. Or maybe it's helping others who have this tension or conflict mediate between themselves. You see, peacemakers, they don't just keep the peace. They go and make it. So maybe we need to identify relationships in our lives where there's tension or this unresolved conflict. Maybe we need to, in humility, take that first step of reconciliation this week. Maybe it's just a conversation and reopening dialogue. Maybe it's an apology. Or maybe to get the ball rolling, it's just an act of kindness or an act of love. Number 4, be a bridge and not a wall. Peacemakers build bridges where others see walls. This means embracing diversity, listening to different perspectives, and trying to find that common ground. It's about valuing the relationship, valuing the person over just being right. And if you know what I mean, making sure the other person knows you're right. We need to learn to listen to other people's stories, to seek and understand their perspective, and let our truth be filled with grace. Because here's the reality, truth with no grace, oftentimes it's a wall for people. And so those are the 4 things for you today with being a peacemaker. And so when it comes down to it though, being a peacemaker, it's not passive. It's an active pursuit of God's kingdom in a fractured world. It's about reflecting the Prince of Peace, Jesus Himself, in everything we do. And so as we go about our days today and this week, let's commit to being carriers of His peace, knowing that every small act of peacemaking echoes the heart of God and brings His kingdom closer to earth. And so your engagement question for today, which you can do over on the Church Center app. In what areas of your life do you find it hardest to be a peacemaker? And maybe if you think it'll be fruitful, what's a practical tip that you use to stay calm and to stay peace-filled when tensions are high?